sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. What I wanted to talk about is Elon Musk is trying to buy another election. I know. He, here, this is great. So this is for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, the one that'll decide whether the court is 4-3 liberal or 4-3 conservative. And the conservative option for the courtship is a freak MAGA loyalist who will do or say anything that benefits them. And the liberal option is just like a fine person. Elon's trying to buy this election, probably because my understanding is that the composition of the Wisconsin Supreme Court will have a huge effect on the outcome of a lawsuit pending in the state. I'm not sure. I'm really more interested in the buying the election thing. So he tweeted this. On Sunday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. Entrance is limited to those who have voted in the Supreme Court election. I will also personally hand over 2 checks for $1 million each in appreciation for you taking the time to vote. This is super important. So just very unambiguously buying the election, like straightforwardly, in any sane world, this would be illegal. This is illegal in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, you cannot offer anything of value in exchange for a promise of a person's vote. So we hastily deleted this tweet and responded with this. To clarify a previous post, entrance is limited to those who have signed the petition in opposition to activist judges. So there you go. It's not in response to the election anymore, the actual process of voting in the election. Obviously, like it's a joke, it's a horror show, it's a reminder of how easily our fragile laws can be broken and trodden on by people with the money and power to, like, you know, flout the law. Isn't this even more blatant? I mean, no one doubts what he's doing here. It's not like anyone sincerely believes this isn't buying the election. The right just likes the fact that he's trying to buy the election, you know? When the Soros memes become real, but it's the right wing. Yeah, I wish we had a Soros man. Would do anything even like remotely as socially detrimental, just even slightly, as this, rooting for Soros. You really shouldn't. He's not as left wing as the hype might lead you to believe. You know, rumors of George Soros being an Antifa activist have been largely overstated, I'm sorry to say. Yeesh. Anyway, we're not getting any good news on this one. The Wisconsin Attorney General sued to stop this very obvious, very unambiguous, very illegal buying of votes, and it was turned down. It was denied by the judge that got assigned the case. The AG has appealed. A Wisconsin judge on Saturday declined to stop billionaire Elon Musk from handing over $1 million checks to 2 voters in the state at a planned rally days before the closely contested Supreme Court election. By the way, to be clear, this is the election that Progressive Victory is currently fighting for. The one that you recall a few days ago, I had someone on, we talked about it. This is that election. Same one. The state attorney general, who argues the offer violates the law, immediately appealed after the judge refused to hear the request for an emergency injunction to block the payments. So the judge refused to do an emergency injunction, not hear the case. Well, in the case here, like, that's what we're dealing with. Insane, by the way. Partisan judge. You know, they talk about activist judges. What Elon Musk is doing is objectively illegal. So for a judge to not issue an emergency injunction here is, like, as far as I'm concerned, partisanship to the right. Like, these are not like, you know, ambiguous legal issues, right? These aren't, these aren't like, well, you know, up to interpretation. No. Musk plans a rally Sunday where he intends to give a pair of Wisconsin voters $1 million each for signing an online petition against activist judges. He is also offering $100 to anyone who signs it. He previously gave $1 million to a Green Bay man who signed. He has contributed more in the past 4 years to the election personally than I think, like, anyone ever, essentially. He's the most financially involved electioneer in, at the very least, recent American history. I don't know if you want to count for inflation. You go back and, like, Rockefeller dropped $10 on a presidential candidate and that was, like, worth 10 trillion today. I'm not really sure. Can't say. Mathematicians haven't figured it out yet, but no, it's pretty insane. The election is coming up, and this one is massive, you know? It essentially will decide, like, the future of Wisconsin. With a conservative Supreme Court, especially one as blatant and partisan as it will be, any effort to reform the state is basically out the window. It's not happening. Ben Wickler is calling for Elon's arrest. That'd be nice. Law enforcement must act now before this goes any further. Musk's crime to assist Brad Schimmel has already been committed, and if Elon Musk sets foot in Wisconsin, he should be placed in handcuffs and held accountable, just like any other criminal. Based? Won't happen, but based nonetheless. Yeah, the makeup of the court will be determined by this for quite a long time. List of things that won't happen. Hey, listen, okay? It would only take one police officer ready to make history. It's pretty bad. He's going to keep doing this, by the way. I mean, obviously, he's going to keep doing this. You can buy, like, the entire Republican Party right now is being kept in line by the threat of being primaried by Elon Musk. That's the explicit threat that he has offered and many people around him have offered. Like, if you go against Trump or Elon, he will pay for you to be primary. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't actually know how much the needle can be swung by the involvement of somebody like Elon Musk. How much can you buy an election, right? Like, realistically, what margins are we talking about? Now, the US presidential election, with or without Elon's involvement, it's going to be a close call, right? We're talking about a pretty narrow, decisive margin. It's federal. You've got a lot of pockets of the country that you can access or, you know, disincentivize from voting. With something like a Wisconsin Supreme Court election, I don't know what those margins look like. Does anyone have any polling on this? Let me see. Wisconsin, Supreme Court race election polling? I don't know if there's any data on this. Well, people are certainly involved. Jesus. Nearly 500,000 absentee ballots cast ahead of election with Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Wow, wow, wow. That's a lot of involvement for a special election. Susan Crawford's chances of winning Wisconsin Supreme election polls. Ah, here's what I want to see. Susan Crawford's the one we're rooting for, by the way. That's good to see. Who's leading in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race? Susan Crawford up by 8 points. That's nice. That's nice. When was this conducted? The most recent poll by SoCal Strategies conducted between March 25 and 26, very recent, among 500 registered and likely voters gave Crawford a 50-48. 500's not a huge amount. It's not invalid, but, you know. Crawford also had the lead among white voters. Well, yeah, it's Wisconsin. They're all white people. 89% of black voters backed Crawford. No black voters backed Schimmel, while 11% said they were undecided. That's funny. Elon just tweeted about the election. A Supreme Court election in Wisconsin might determine the fate of America. I can't believe I'm saying it, but for once, I agree with Elon. Yep, that's true. You said 50-48 when it was 50-42. Did I say 50-48? Sorry, my bad. Yeah, 50-42. An 8-point lead is pretty substantial, though again, we're talking about one opinion poll of 500 voters. It's a gap of 8, an 8-point difference. An RMG research poll with 800 registered voters from February 25th to 28th also showed Crawford with a slight lead. Well, that was a while ago. 42% said they plan to back Crawford, 35% Schimmel. That's a 7-point lead. When is the actual election? Isn't it in 3 days? 3 days, right? Yeah, there's still time to join up with PV to help. Yeah, give me the well-produced intro.
Welcome back. We are exactly 1 week from the first big test at the ballot box under the new Trump administration. And that brings us to a new installment of our series, America Block by Block. It's an ongoing look at the coalitions reshaping politics in this country. I said this before, but one of the reasons why this election is so important, like so overwhelmingly important, is that it's a metric test for whether or not the administration is losing their momentum, right? I've said this, but like my theory, and I could be wrong, I'm just guessing here. My theory is that the reason the administration is doing all this horrible shit so quickly and so early is that they know that these things will be almost universally unpopular, and the more they want to take advantage of their opening momentum. And the more time passes, the more unpopular everything gets, the more they wallow in stagnation. This is exactly what happened with Viktor Orban in Hungary, right? Like, he succeeded in de-democratizing the country and putting his cronies in charge, blah, 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 blah. But because his rule was ultimately, like, bad for Hungarians, unpopularity mounted, and now he's in this weird lame duck position where he's still there, he's still in charge, he's still bad and does bad things, but he no longer has the political mandate necessary for genuine sweeping reform. Does that make sense? Like, eventually you get mired in your own controversies and hypocrisies, and now Orban is getting dog-walked by the opposition, in polling at least. So this is the first real test. It's been
just over 2 months. What margins are we going to see? If it's really close, if we lose, that's pretty bad. If we win by a little bit, that's good. But if we win by a decent amount, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points, to me, that's an indication, you know, the momentum is beginning to slow. You understand. You're forgetting there are 2 Florida special elections in Congress. I'm not expecting those to swing over to communists or anything. This is a broader, like, Wisconsin. This is a purple states, like, special election to a statewide position, right? This is a big metric, you know? This is a big test. Big test.
Today's deep dive, battleground Wisconsin, where voters are heading to the polls to elect a new Supreme Court justice in that state. The contest has gotten a lot of national attention, and millions of dollars are being spent by Democrat and Republican-aligned groups, with much more of the money on the Republican side
what a
coming
surprise.
from Elon Musk. Over the weekend, President Trump weighed in, endorsing the conservative candidate here. NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki joins me now from the big board. So, Steve, President Trump and Elon Musk getting in on this race. Democrats, though, think they do have an edge of their own here. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Aaron, it's interesting. I think this court race is going to test an advantage that Democrats have had recently, see if they still have it in the second Trump term. And what I mean is you're taking a look here at some recent statewide races in Wisconsin, and you look at the results and you see extremely close race for Senate in 2022. Obviously, Trump winning it by 9/10 of a point last year. The governor's race pretty close in 2022. And then you got this. This is the last state Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, and it was a blowout. It was double digits. Not technically for the Democrat. They're officially nonpartisan races, but that's in name only. These really are essentially partisan affairs.
Can you imagine how bad it would make Elon look that even while running like the wealthiest man in the world running an illegal election lottery, he still loses this election by a significant margin? I don't get why this matters so much. If a state is more Hitler right, does that really matter if the Fed is already Hitler right? This matters tremendously. Again, it's a metric for how much the momentum is slowing down. Also, as bad as the Trump administration has been, it's not like we've broken up with federalism, right? States do have a lot of swing, and Wisconsin's very important. As a swing state, the ability for them to get anything done within that state. If the Democrats lose here and the Republicans control the state Supreme Court, you know what that means they control in the future? Gerrymandering. Because a state Supreme Court, they're the ones that approve submissions for redistricting. So if the conservatives control Wisconsin's Supreme Court, congratulations, you've now given them a free pass to gerrymander like a motherfucker. And then good luck winning again.
Democratic favored candidate winning by double digits in the spring of 2023. And that's the advantage Democrats have had in Wisconsin and nationally the last few years. Off-year elections, oddly timed elections, special elections. The key here is where the turnout is lower. The Democrats have had an advantage because they've had a base that's much more passionate about getting out in those lower turnout scenarios. So take a look at this state Supreme Court race from 2023, just to give you a sense of it right here.
This guy's annoying. He's doing fine. Why be mean to him? Don't we have enough going on in our lives right now without needing to be, like, unnecessarily mean?
This was the Democratic favored candidate, again, winning by about 11 points statewide. And one county, I think, really tells the story of this turnout edge Democrats have had in lower turnout races. That's the key. It would be right here. This is Dane County. This is one of the biggest in the state, Madison, University of Wisconsin. And just take a look at what Dane looks like demographically compared to the rest of the state. I mean, look at this. A majority of residents in Dane County, adults, have at least a 4-year college degree statewide. That's 33%. An advanced degree, more than 1 in 5 in Dane,
crazy.
with a graduate degree or above, a higher household income, higher home value, a little bit younger median age here, and also you've seen population growth. This is the kind of place, Dane, in Wisconsin, and really it's the kind of place nationally where Democrats have been really relying on for votes and for turnout. And let me show you what happened in Dane County in that 2023 state Supreme Court race. Look at this. The Democratic-aligned candidate here won the county by 64 points. Now, it's a big county. That is high for Democrats. They usually do in the 50s in presidential, so it's higher even than Democrats normally do. And then there's this. There's the share of the overall vote statewide that came out of Dane, okay? In this 2023 state Supreme Court election, you know, more than 13.5% of the vote, almost 13% of the vote, came out of Dane County. 13
All right, well, I think we get the gist. We're very much looking forward to the results of this election. I encourage you guys again to sign up with PV because this one's pretty important. Somebody linked this and I forgot all about it, but yeah, they ran an attack ad about a month ago against the wrong Susan Crawford. The ad linked to a website attacking Judge Crawford's record on crime. The image in the ad featured author, climate change columnist, and former Harvard law professor Susan P. Crawford. That's just, it's funny. They got the wrong dang Crawford. That is true. That is completely correct, by the way, that PV was pretty involved in the 2023 Wisconsin Supreme Court election, and a significant number of those votes, to my memory, I think that you could reasonably attribute to their work, you know? Also, we have to show up and support our fellow Polacks, right? Protasiewicz. Unlike my last name, which got anglicized, I think people would struggle a bit with this one. I really hope we get it. I really hope we get it. Let me say this one over to my beautiful, beautiful editors. You were talking about momentum. I think they can tell they've already exhausted their goodwill. Trump withdrawing Stefanik is hopefully a sign of the times. Yeah, we need to talk about that. So much has happened. Do you know any Polish? Absolutely none. What are your thoughts on the pardoning of Trevor Milton? I guess I don't have that many thoughts on it because it seems kind of like just a reinforcement of the fact that I already knew, which is that financial crimes are no longer illegal. Didn't they pardon the Haktua girl? Or they didn't pardon her, but they dropped the case against her? That's pretty funny. Like, there's not much to say about it. Like, he unambiguously committed financial crimes, but he also supported Trump, so he gets to get out. That's it. It's not really, it's just, I don't know. What did the Haktua girl do? Well, we'll never know now because they dropped the investigation, but she presided over a big rug pull. But fraud is just legal now. Like, that's not new, right? I can't be mad at the Haktua girl, though. Good night, y'all. What do we got here? A Federal Reserve Bank is now projecting the U.S. GDP growth rate is negative 2.8% in the first quarter of 2025. That would be pretty bad. It's just a prediction. Federal Reserve Bank, let's see, negative 2.8% first quarter. Give me the info. Which bank? Why don't they ever link? They never link. I'm not seeing any articles on that. First quarter prediction. Yeah, I don't see anything on that. Fake news? Yeah, I haven't seen... Oh, here we go. On March 3rd, the GDP Now model estimate for real GDP growth in the first quarter of 2025 is negative 2.8%. Okay, the GDP Now model from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. But that's on March 3rd. That's not necessarily recent. I wonder if things have changed. We're pretty much at the end of the first quarter period now. We're not going to get the numbers for another month. I don't know. You know, they've said the reason why the reciprocal tariffs are kicking in April 2nd, or allegedly kicking in on April 2nd, is because that way the decline in the market that we'll see as a consequence of them won't be reflected in the first quarter results. Because like if they do it April 2nd, they're just after the cutoff for the first quarter report. So when the first quarter report gets publicized, you don't see the effects of it for a while. It's going to be lower than negative 2.8%. Negative 2.8% would be hugely bad. That would be like catastrophically bad. That would be really, 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 really bad. I don't think it's been negative in my lifetime. It has, COVID. But that'd be pretty bad. Yeah. Yeah, you have to go back to COVID to find anything like that. Right here. You had that one big quarter, and then things recovered pretty quickly. Thank you, Biden. Atlanta Fed GDP Now estimate. Gold adjusted GDP Now. I'm not econ pill enough to understand what the gold adjusted GDP Now 2025 first quarter estimate means. So they've been ballparking it in this direction for a while. Basically, it's because the USD is tanked. I got to do some international travel before our currency is worth less than the paper it's printed on. Quick question: why are Dems performing better in low turnout races? My belief is that because Republicans are a Trumpist cult, like that's their model. The reason Republicans do well in presidential elections is because they show up and then vote down ticket.